Hi everyone, welcome to another Broken Meeple Blitz review, and today, this is an unexpected title. We're taking a look at King of 12. This is a new filler card game, I would say. I was about to say trick-taking, I don't think that's quite accurate to say, but a filler card game from Lucky Duck Games. Completely out of the blue, never saw this coming, there was no fanfare about it, it's just, hey, we got a new filler game, give it a try. It's like, cool, I like filler games. I've kind of got a little bit annoyed with the fact that every game that gets released, that gets talked about, has to be this giant monstrosity of a game, 3 hours, big campaign and everything. It's like, you know what? Can we just have some nice small card games?
What the hell's in this thing? What's this? I said take only what you need to survive.
I can just get out nice and quick, that look good, that are easy to teach and fun, and see how things go. So I was keen to see if this one could rise to the top. So in King of 12, to start the game, you have 12 characters available to you, but you will decide as a group which characters you want to feature. So it's like, we're going to have these lot, we're going to have these. And then during a game, it's a case of the first player to win 2 rounds. Every turn phase of the game, I mean every phase I guess you could call it, because it's hard to distinguish between phase and round, each player rolls a die, a d12, and puts it in front of them, and then they get their hand of cards. And these cards do all sorts of weird things like roll your die, double your die value, subtract 7 from your die, turn it into a 12 unless it is a 12, in which case it becomes a 1, lowest die value wins, add 7, rotate it to an adjacent side, whatever. They do all sorts of weird stuff with them, and then you get some like more harder ones which like say pass your die clockwise, cancel certain other cards, the winner is the runner-up, or rotate to your opposite side. There's all sorts of like weird and wonderful cards. It's one of those kind of crazy card games that you would expect something out of like maybe Bruno Fedduti to come up with. But what happens is each player chooses one of the cards in their hand, puts it face down, and it's simultaneous flip. So everybody's put one face down, you flip, and in a certain order you resolve them, and they do various things. And the idea is that at the end of a phase, it's whoever has the highest value die remaining wins that phase. And when you win, you get 2 points and the runner-up gets 1 point. To finish a round, you must get 8 or more points, and to finish the game, you must win 2 rounds. That's the simplistic version, but there's a few catches here. This game is obsessed with the idea of cancelling other things out. In fact, if you remember Just One, you know, the really cool Repos production game, you know how in that one, when you come up with the same clue as another player, you cancel them out and they don't do anything? This game is obsessed with that rule set. Because what happens is, if you flip a card and it duplicates another player, they cancel out and they don't resolve. But then on top of that, if somebody's die value at the end of all the cards duplicates another player's die value, they cancel out. So you might think, well, I've only got a 2 in front of me, how am I going to win this round? But then the 2 players with you all end up on 9, they cancel out, you're the last die remaining, you win with a 2. So it's like, it's actually possible to come from an underdog position. And the whole game is like that. You know, even points at the end of a round cancel out. Let's say, as I say, you have to get 8 or more points. You get to a point where 2 players are closely on points, and then after a particular round, one ends up on 9 points and another player ends up on 9 points. They cancel out, and a player who is lagging behind on 4 points wins the round. It's all obsessed with this idea that if you are at all similar to another player, it's going to cancel out and the effect is not going to go off, or you're not going to win the round. So you've got to be careful as to what you do in respect of that. So the game sounds simple enough, but is it fun enough to warrant the gameplay? And overall, I'm going to say yes it is. I think this is actually quite a good filler game. I mean, the box says 2 to 4 players, 10 plus years, 15 minutes. That's not an inaccurate statement, to be honest. This is a game that really shouldn't take you longer than 20 minutes to finish. You know, this, even with the teaching. Teaching this takes no time at all. I mean, I made sort of half-ass of it in the overview, but this is the rulebook. It's literally 4 little pages, and one of them is a card summary. So, and one of them is the turn flow and setup, like how to select your cards. So really, that is the rules of the game. 2 A5 sheets of paper with a lot of text, but with examples of how everything works. I mean, this is pretty much a foolproof rulebook. It's a little bit hazy on how tiebreakers work in certain scenarios, but other than that, it's pretty much almost foolproof as to learning the game. So nice, quick to teach. All right, good plus point there. 15 to 20 minutes, that's about as long as a game should take. Again, good plus point. This fits the exact definition of a filler game. It's not like, oh, it's a filler game, but it takes about 3/4 of an hour. No, that's not a filler. Filler is 20 minutes, 30 minutes, absolute tops. We're talking filling the gap while you wait for the other person to turn up for a game night. That's the type of filler I'm on about. But in terms of gameplay, that's on and off. It depends a lot on the player count. Overall, I enjoy this. I think that the idea of selecting, like, what are you going to do? Which card are you going to pick because you're running out of them? I reckon you're going to do this. Right, flip. And then it's like, I mean, I've talked about this in a recent culling video when, I don't know which one will air before this, but I'm culling Raptor out of my collection. That card play of getting in your opponent's head, I like that kind of thing, and this game basically has it in spades. Now, you don't use all the cards in the 12 available, so there's only so many you've got to remember, and you know in advance when you start the game what's available, so, there's only so much of a memory aspect required. And these aren't exactly complicated effects. I mean, yeah, there's a few weird ones like the lady and the merchants, but for the most part, it's like add 7, subtract 7, double your die value. Not particularly different effects. And some of them even change the winning conditions. I mean, one of them says that the runner-up wins, the knight says that the lower die value wins, so there's a bit of unpredictability you've got to go with. And that's partially the problem. This depends a lot on player count. This goes from 2 to 4 players, and honestly, I'm mainly pulling this out with 3 players. You could convince me with a 4-player game. I don't think I'll ever play this 2-player ever again, though. I don't think this game is designed for 2 players, because 3-player, sweet spot, broken record. You know what I'm like by now. But with 2 players, you end up in this back and forth situation of, yes, you're only getting into one opponent's head. That's cool. But the point scoring doesn't work as well in this. 4-player is good, but then it gets a little bit chaotic, particularly with some of these cards. Some of them aren't too bad. I mean, add to your value, double your value, set it to a 12, rotate to an adjacent side. Not too bad, but then when you get into these harder ones, you've got all players rotate their die. You've got changing the winning conditions, so like the runner-up. You've then got stealing like point tokens. You've then got pass your die clockwise to the next player. You've got some pretty chaotic stuff happening, and when there's 4 of you, that really ramps up the chaos factor. You get to a point where you can't really easily tell what you should do, really. I mean, it's almost... I actually played one game of this. I had to play it over... people I knew had copies of this, so I had to play this over the internet. And, people were basically going like, like choosing a card. I basically shuffled my deck like that and just went... and flipped one at random. I decided to test this theory, right? 4 of us, I did that. I came second. I came second in a 4-player game by randomly choosing my card. That might have been complete fluke. I didn't try it again, but, that happened. And so, But as I played 4-player games, I did think that sometimes you sort of pick a card and you think, well, this will probably happen, but then with 3 other cards going off, with rotating dies and setting die values and changing winning conditions, it just becomes a bit too chaotic for my liking. Not enough to break the game, but I just don't feel like I would want to pull this out with 4. This game really does shine as a 3-player game. I actually do think that this game could have literally just come out and said 3 players, no other player count. It would have been restrictive, but I'd have been happy with that, because that is the count that I want. If I've got 3 of us and I want to play a filler game, I'm going to be looking at King of 12. So overall, is this game worth a buy? I think it is. I mean, components are great. You've got some nice blue D12s, point tokens, whatever, they're point tokens. You've got baggies in the box. In fact, they give you a spare baggie. I'm not sure entirely why. You only need 2, but whatever. And these cards are good. I mean, they're large. They're white with a nice colourful artwork picture on it, so it's very clear to see what each card does. No ambiguity. And they're pretty sturdy as well. I mean, this will last a long time unsleeved, but if you sleeve these cards, they're going to last until the day you die. These will really stand the test of time. So this does what I want it to for a filler game, really. It's really simple to teach. I will teach this to you in less than 3 minutes or so. We'll get through a game in 15 to 20 minutes. It's just that the design and the player scaling is a little flawed in places, which does drop it down a bit. But it's very good at the right scenario, and I think that's just kind of the thing to take away from this. Overall, I'm giving King of 12 a decent enough 7 out of 10. I'm giving it a seal of endorsement. I think you should definitely consider this as a filler game, because I think you're going to get some enjoyment out of this, and maybe some people won't mind the 4-player count. Maybe they're fine with a little bit of chaos. It's a 15-20 minute filler, who cares? I'm not saying that it's, a complete luck fest, and I'm not saying that, you can't have chaos in a filler game, but I'm just saying that it kind of irked me a little bit that there was maybe a little bit too much chaos at 4 players. Some of you might not care, particularly if it's, say, mother and father playing with their 2 kids. This will work just fine. For me, I'm going to stick with 3 players, but I'm really going to enjoy this when I get the 3-player count. So, as I say, some flaws, but overall, a pretty decent filler game. That's it for me on this review of King of 12. If you like what you see, then consider subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to check out the code in the description for the 5% discount on zatu.co.uk. If there's a game like King of 12 or any other game that's deciding, I might pull the trigger on this one, consider doing so. Use my code. It helps to support the channel. It helps me to get more copies for review, but it will also save you some pennies from your never-ending dissolving wallet. As we know as board gamers, it's not the cheapest hobby in the world. So that's it for me. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple video, and take care, and remember, as always, it's only a game. Bye for now.